Hi, I'm Christine from House of Smocking, and in this video I'm going to talk you through how to make a bishop gown. And I'm going to follow the instructions in this little baby nightgown pattern from A Garden of Smocking. The main thing to watch when you're doing a bishop gown is to get your sleeve seams right, and that depends on the fabric weight that you're going to use. So if you're going to use a fine fabric, then you can get away with French seams, but if you use a thicker fabric you will need to have either an open seam or whereby you flatten it out, or whereby you actually feed the fabric through as individual pieces through your pleater and then catch them at the back, which I'll show you how to do later. But first of all I'll show you how to start with this fine fabric, which I'm using Imperial Batiste. So now I've got my Imperial Batiste and I've cut out all my pieces, and what I've got is I've got a back, a sleeve, a front, a sleeve and a back, and I've cut out the armholes, and I'm going to do French seams, which means I'm going to start by putting the pieces with the wrong sides together, and then I'm going to do my first seam. So here I've done my first seam, and then I'm going to trim away so that I've got a really tiny seam before I then fold the fabric over and do my second seam, which encloses the first. So here I've done one already, and there's my narrow French seam. So I'll just finish that one off and I'll be back. The next thing this pattern calls for is to trim the neckline, so that this is my front and it's folded in half, matching my seams, and it says to measure down 1 inch at the fold and 1/4 inch across there, and then you can draw a line straight across and then trim that off. Okay, so now I've trimmed off the top edge so it puts it on a scoop for the front of the neck. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the sleeves. Now I've pleated these up already. I've run them through the pleater before I did the armholes. In fact, I would normally add the lace as well at that stage. So I'll now just add the lace to the edge before I pleat up the neckline. So the first stage for attaching the lace is to put the right side of the lace to the right side of the fabric, and then just sew a seam in the header on the edge of the fabric. Once you've done that, then press it over with the seam up and then do a small zigzag over the edge, and I'll show you. So here's one I've finished. Should come into focus so you can see how I've zigzagged over the edge, and that's on the inside. So next we'll cover pleating up the neckline. So depending on whether you put your fabric through your pleater rolling from the bottom or the top, depends on which way you're going to fold these seams, press them which way you're going to press them. Now when I feed into my pleater, the fabric comes over the top of the roller, so I roll the fabric onto my doweling with the right side facing up, and I've pressed all the seams facing towards me. And when you roll it onto your doweling, try and roll it as straight as you possibly can. So you want it really, really neat before you roll it onto your fabric, onto your doweling. So I'll just get it started for you and show you how that. So I want to roll that double bit of the sleeve as neat as possible, but the important bit is to keep the top edge straight. So down, and again keeping that bit nice and straight and folding it round with you so it doesn't cause the top to skew off. There we go. And then it's going towards me, so I want that way. Folding that round to keep it nice and tight. Again, having that towards you. And then you're ready for pleating up. So I've just started pleating, and I've got my 6 needles in as per the pattern says, and then I've lined the top edge of my fabric up with that groove 1 centimetre away from that needle. It looks a bit funny from the angle of the camera, but it is 1 centimetre away. Now I'm just coming to one of the seams, and you'll see that the seam is facing away from me, so it goes through the pleater fine. But one thing that I do when I get to a seam is I just put the flat of my hand on top of this bar. I don't put pressure on it particularly, but it's just while it goes through the thickness of the seam, it just helps to ease it through. And there we go, that's just gone through fine. But then keep pulling the fabric off your needles every few turns. And there you can see that the seams come through all okay without breaking needles. So I'll just carry on pleating this up, and then we'll talk about blocking. So here I've finished the pleating, and I've fanned it out round the, it's the Smock and Block Guide by Ellen McCann. And it gives you all the different sizes. So you line your neckline up with the size that you want and pin it in place, and then pull your threads up and tie off at the edges, and fan your pleats out evenly all the way around. Now you'll see that the pleats are quite loose towards the bottom edge, and you need to smock at that tension, so your tension should get looser as you go down, otherwise it'll make it all bunch up. So there is that Smock and Block Guide, and there's also the Heirloom Stitches Shape and Press Board. This is the Heirloom Stitches Shape and Press Board, and you'll see that this also has a guide for making a bishop, fanning out the bishop. Okay, and then on the other side you have all the patterns for your lace shaping. So you'll see now that I actually marked the centre of my pleats, which was useful for when I was marking out on the guide, so that you've got your centre line as well to pin to. And the pattern also required that I unpick for 4 centimetres on the right side and 2.75 on the left side. So I'm all ready for my smocking. I've just got to pull up the pleats for the smocked cuffs. But once I've done the smocking, then I'll probably do that as a part 2. I'm hoping this video has been helpful, and all these other items are available on my website. That's How to Smocking. Thank you very much.